KB in the bay going crazy. Put peace on the hood, Mercedes. Young boys letting off 80. Leaning next to a DR like Haiti. This ain't no Porter, no Bailey. No internet clown gon' play me. Money ain't never gon' make me. I can win with a couple bucks like Brady. And she ain't baby, you cannot shame me. What they gon' pay me to shut my mouth? Ain't gotta okay me, then they gon' save me. I'm finna stay free.
You mentioned a key word that I want to talk about is pivot. And you've done this so well from, I mean, you still put out music, but from doing exclusively hip hop to YouTube to the type of videos you do on YouTube. And I wanted to talk to you about that because I think that you're just a master at this. You're really good at figuring out your niche audience, figuring out what the need is, knowing your value and executing. And, you know, we could talk about a whole bunch of things as it pertains to failure, but I mean, maybe you can give me the inside scoop, but watching you from the outside looking in, I don't feel like failure was an option. It was always, let me pivot. This didn't work. This is not a reason why I should give up on what I want to pursue, but let me figure out why this is not working. Let me figure out what can work and let me pursue that. And you just did it until you got it right. And so can you speak to that? Because I know for me, I can be discouraged. For instance, on YouTube, I was doing reaction videos and I found out very quickly, this ain't me. I'm a conversationalist. I can sit down and have a conversation. I can ask questions, great follow-up questions. I can sit and because I do this all the time. That's what got me into podcasting. But reaction videos, I saw that it was popping. So I was like, let me do this, but it wasn't who I was. And now I'm getting back to more conversations, more interviews. It's just who I am, what I'm about. But can you talk to the pivot? Like, how does one discover, or how does one get in the habit of identifying what works, what doesn't work, knowing what needs to be given up on altogether and what needs to just be refined?
That's a great question. I think, one, you got to define what your degree of success is.
That's good. Yeah.
Right? So for me, I was relatively successful as an independent Christian rapper. And by relatively successful, I mean I was living in Southern California, providing for a family.
Yeah.
My wife stays home and raises our kids and homeschools our kids.
Yeah.
That's fairly successful.
That's success.
Right?
Yeah.
Grossing six figures, some years multiple six figures. But if we're talking about what is success, what is that bullseye is shooting for? A lot of people don't even know what that is.
Right.
So for me, success is defined in a very specific way. Monetarily, it's to be able to afford to buy a home and pay it off in a foreseeable future in Southern California or wherever I feel like God's calling me to live.
Right.
So if I look at that and I go, okay, so what's the biggest earner in Christian rap? Okay, and I kind of know what the numbers are, right? Outside of a Lecrae and like the outliers, like what's, you know, and there's not a lot of folks making multiple six figures, taking home multiple six figures, buying homes in real estate areas like Southern California and paying them off, right? So once I discovered that, I said, okay, well, I either got to pivot away from Christian music, and go broader. Yeah. Can I do that? Do I have a competitive edge? Do I know TikTok well enough, right? Am I a Nick D? Can I make records like Nick D? Can I make records like Montel?
Yeah.
Not really.
Yeah.
Not right now, you know? And or do I just try to be the Lecrae in Christian rap, but do I want to deal with the rock and roll worship tours and the winter jams and that world? Yuck.
Nah.
I don't want to deal with those people, right? So I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
So I'm doing okay,
Yeah.
right? I'm fine, and then the pandemic hits, and I'm like, okay, well, I might as well try really going in on YouTube. And the interesting thing about YouTube is the very things that people tell you not to do, because they don't really know what they're talking about.
Yeah, that's real.
Is the things that help me become successful, specifically multiple uploads in a day.
Yeah.
Don't do that. That's a bad idea.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so I had done an
know.
upload a day for a long time.
Yeah.
Because I was doing what you were doing. I was traveling, hanging out with people, doing conversations like this, chopping them into multiple clips.
Yeah.
But I was doing a video a day. But then once I went to kind of conversations based around topics people care about, so it's part conversation, part reaction. But the multi-upload thing is what really did it.
Yeah.
And that was the not just the pivot to a platform, but the pivot to a method of using the platform in a way that the platform would benefit me.
Yeah.
So once I pivoted to that, then I instantly replaced my music income.
Yeah.
Like within a month.
Yeah.
Within a month or two, music income replaced.
That's crazy.
And I was like, whoa,
That's crazy.
right? So it just goes to say that, like, if you're really tapped into what you're supposed to be doing and you're paying attention and you're understanding things, you kind of got to follow your gut and not listen to like best practices or like industry standards. I think those are some of the worst terms I get a lot of people they're like, well, you know, the best practices is industry. And then you look at Rogan, or you look at now it's a lot of the reaction channels like Young Don and whoever, Sneeko, whoever. They're all doing multiple uploads a day.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I was doing that in 2020.
Right.
Because Rogan was also doing that, and so I was like, okay, something here.
Yeah.
And so I stopped doing that.
Yeah.
In this year, we stopped doing that. We said, okay, let's just do one good video on my main channel. Yeah. But for fun, we launched the Bless God Studios channel, which is right there to your right. It's pulled up. It's a stream we did last night.
Yeah.
And I said, well, let me just, I can't just talk about one thing.
Right.
I'm naturally multidimensional. That's wrong. YouTube, build a niche, talk about your niche and do your niche, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, no, I want to talk about relationships. I want to talk about fitness. I want to talk about health. I'm not going to do it on the main channel because I don't want to confuse people. So we do the spinoff channel, which is actually the old King's Dream channel. We just rebranded it. Asked the artists if they want to leave their videos up. Mostly everybody said leave the music videos up. Yeah. And we instantly went to multi-uploads, and instantly the same growth. And so this channel, which is at 40,000 subscribers right now, is generating the same AdSense as my main channel.
Oh my goodness.
Why? Multi-uploads.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And any YouTube expert would be like, no, you're oversaturating. You're all over the place. It doesn't make sense. Why are you talking about an Andrew Tate in one video and then talking about Judah Smith in another video? It makes no sense. But the next iteration of the quote-unquote influencer is not going to be the guy that talks about one thing really well. It's going to be about a guy that's multidimensional, talks about a variety of things with an understanding and a foundation. It can go deep on multiple things. I think that's where things are going.
Yeah.
And so, again, I'm always watching what's going. So I'm always pivoting. I pivoted to this, and I pivoted back, then I pivot, right? And so I'm just, because at some point you have to know what's happening, but you also got to know what your skill set is and what you're capable of. And so we literally doubled our AdSense. In a month.
That's crazy. Yeah.
You know,
that's incredible.
In a month.
Yeah.
And so what would be the alternative? Oh, man, you just got to make better videos. Mr. Beast, you got to make better videos. You got to know your niche. You got to know the retention graph of how long, why did people stop watching? You got to give away money. You got to take a penny across the state, right? Okay. Or I could just find interesting topics that I care about and riff on them.
Yeah.
And grow my channel that way.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so anyway, I could talk about this stuff forever, but I think generally speaking, pivoting is being self-aware, seeing the opportunity, knowing what you're doing, why you're doing it, and knowing what your goals are. If you don't know what your goals are and you're on YouTube like, I'm just going to make, like, okay, well, what do you want to do? Do you want to make $1 million a year? You want to make $100,000 a year? It's different. I need to make $1 million, right? I need to make way more money than the average person, so I have to approach it with a different intensity. Not because I'm a workaholic and I'm going to do this indefinitely. No, because I'm going to sprint for a very specific window of my life, hit my goals, and then have flexibility to do other things that I'm passionate about.
I love that. That's so good.
Like this ain't clout. This isn't real life. I got a real life. Price is better and it ain't no doubt. I ain't got time to debate. There's countries to save. Afghanistan, Cuba, I pray.